Okay, so I wanted to start with just the notes that I wrote in there and just kind of give you guys a feel for what I gathered from the book. So I did write down, I always use just little baby post-its to make it fun. So, message from Elizabeth. I saw that she talked about secrets to life are found at death's door, which I totally agree with. And then final lessons are also at death's door. And then there's a Hitler versus Gandhi in us, which totally triggered something in me, because a few years ago I was like, I feel like I'm always battling with a little devil and a little angel on my shoulder. I feel like I will always just I resonated with that idea. And then existing but never really living. This is so something that I feel like they pulled out of my head or something, or Elizabeth just totally sorry, I just called her I knew her, but yeah, I'm gonna just say her full name. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross really just, I feel like she just took this idea out of my head. But I have heard that before, but to hear it in this way relating to death, it just seems like it's more impactful to me, and just, I don't know, it touched something in me. So a message from David for me. I feel like he's a very attentive and just impressed with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and I definitely felt that from there. And I think immediately I'm just whoa, I feel like he understands kind of what she was about. I don't even completely understand everything she did, but I feel like it's amazing that he's continuing that work. And just, I guess the message, I felt oh, he's talking to me because he gave this book to me. But yeah, so I guess I'll start with highlights from chapter 1. So that was the lesson of authenticity. And let me just go to my notes. Okay, so our greatest lessons lie in the greatest pain. Yeah, that's hard to take too. Take in. Relax. It sounds so simple, but it's really hard. But I think that's my personality now, is this book. As weird as that sounds. We are not alone. There's richness in every day. And then power. We've been given, there's a lesson in power. We've been given everything we need, which is also hard to think about. That might be most of it for the first, oh no, okay. Another group of my favorite thoughts. Be more genuinely you. Everyone is always just be real. Everything's about being real, especially 2015. I think I tweeted, I was this is the realest year ever. And I'm starting to think it's true, because everyone's just always said, oh, just be real, but I don't know, I guess you can take being genuine any way you like. Who you are is eternal. I've been thinking about this as well, because I was wait, there's nobody else who's exactly like me. I'll just sit there and think about that and be wow, okay, I need to document everything I'm doing. That's part of the reason why I started vlogging. And so I was like, oh, I'm just gonna share like everything, because nobody else has gone through the exact same thing. What would you do if no one is looking? Oh my gosh, okay. This is how I live all the time. And I think it's really funny too, because I used to get made fun of for doing this in high school, because I don't like lying. Like, to me, it's pointless. But sometimes you just have to lie in society because people will just not accept the truth. So that happens, but I've pretty much always been an honest person, so there's that. Okay, so the next chapter was the lesson of love. So let me find the notes that I took on this chapter. Oh, okay. So some of my favorite points. Love is the source of truth. Which I never thought about, but it gets pretty deep in this book. Excuses not to love others. I definitely connect with that. This chapter just got me thinking about, I've only had 2 relationships, and both of them, to me, I feel like I was like, I don't need this. Like, I make up reasons not to be with them, but they were valid reasons too. So and then also, we're easier on others than ourselves. Oh my gosh, this is just everything that I do. Like, I will totally just freaking praise somebody else, but when I'm talking about myself, I just cannot do the same thing. And then love is always present in life. I want to see in the future just how I find love. To me, I feel like the next time I'm gonna find love is gonna be with animals. That sounds weird, but I think I've been thinking I could be an old cat lady and still enjoy myself. But further than that, I just been thinking about how I could actually live the rest of my life just enjoying hanging out with my friends. I started thinking, why do I need a significant other? This book does talk about enjoying a partner and enjoying stuff that way, but for me, I just been recently, I feel like I don't need everything that's expected. I could just enjoy being with friends, enjoy being with family. So we'll see if that changes. But anyways, the chapter 3, the lesson of relationships. So one of my favorite parts of this book too is the anecdotes, because this book expresses, and I was saying, I related to, your experience is so unique that the stories that happen to other people, they've been through so much and it's so different, but you can still connect to the deeper meaning that is explained in the book. So I really like that. So in this chapter 3, one of my favorite parts was, there's no accidental relationship. And I'm just taken aback, because I'm that's so true. I'm always trying to tell myself when I get mad about my previous relationships, I'm but if I didn't have that, I would have had to go through it with someone else, and I wouldn't have learned anything. I would be set back if none of those things had happened. So that definitely is a healing thing for me. You create your own destiny. Oh my gosh, yes. This book is just starting to make me believe the path I'm going on is everything. I have always been a somewhat everything happens for a reason person, but this book has turned me into a solid everything happens for a reason person. So the next thing, we can create relationships we wish to have. Yeah, we can create the relationships we wish to have. I definitely see that. If you put out there you want to have positive people, which is probably what I'm going through right now. Lately, I've been so positive, and it's so funny because in college, I feel like I was always like, this sucks and this sucks. But when other people talk to me, I think I've always been that way. I just saw it differently. Like, I was thinking the negative stuff, but I always like admitted positive things. And now I'm starting to notice that since I've been like more positive, even like on the inside and outside, I've noticed people around me becoming more positive. There are a few exceptions here and there, which I'm still trying to figure out how to work with, but for the most part, I've noticed they've like absorbed some of the positivity I've been like radiating. And it's like crazy because even the friends now that I thought were so negative, and I was like, I need different friends, some of them I don't hang out with anymore. But the other friends who I thought might be negative have actually turned it around and, I don't know, just changed. And I feel like that happened because I sort of like wanted something different and they could feel it. So, I don't know, that's just how I saw what happened. But I definitely believe like you can sort of, yeah, make your own way and just kind of figure out what you want. You don't have to, I'm not sure if I had read it in here, but I'm always thinking this, or I've said it a few times, actually I have said it. I'm like, don't complain if it's something you can change. Like, to me, I'm like, don't complain about, I hate this girl, I hate this guy, I don't want to be with this person sucks. To me, like in the past couple years, I think as a sign of maturity, now I'm just like, I don't want this, so I'm going to change it. There are a few times where I'm like, oh, I don't want to hang out with my friend, but I'm going to hang out with him because I know I'm going to sit here and do nothing. But when it comes to, I'm in this relationship, but this is stupid, I've turned it to now I'm not having anything to do with it. Like, yeah, like, you don't want to talk to me? Okay, that's fine. Like, I'm not gonna try to make my life harder. I'm just gonna keep it simple. And that's kind of what I got from this book too. So there's just a lot to learn. And then yeah, so that was chapter 3. The next chapter was chapter 4, the lesson of loss. So this chapter, I actually, for some reason, I felt a little bit like I felt disconnected because I didn't want to think about it. So I was like, I don't want to think about loss that I've had. But I will say I'm probably gonna need the chapter the next time it happens. I think I took it as a different way, like loss of like college life, some friends, but as far as like losing like people, this chapter I know is gonna be helpful then. But at the moment I feel like, okay, I just took it in. I feel like a lot of the other chapters, I was like, oh my god, like, this is me, like, right now. So, yeah, some of my favorite notes from that chapter is the idea that everything is temporary. Oh my gosh, I tried to explain that this is what I do when something's really, 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 like, depressing, something's really angering, something's really just like taking over. I guess my like way of explaining it has been weird to my friends, but when something really bad happens to them, like I remember one time my friends, like, I failed a class. So I'm like, this is gonna sound crazy, but just imagine the first, I guess, advice I always say is just imagine you're on an island. Like, I guess my first instinct is escape the problem. So just imagine you're on an island and you don't have to worry about any of these things. Like, all you have to do is relax. All you have to do is hang out. Like, all of this stuff doesn't matter. And I guess at first that didn't really connect with them because it's something that, like, only things work for people in the way that they know themselves it'll work for them. Just like getting out of depression or being happy, it's not gonna be a formula for everyone, but there's gonna be something different that works for you. And there might be something universal, like some people say exercise, a good diet, all that stuff is like, you know, like universal to like help you be healthy or whatever. But yeah, so taking everything is temporary. I guess I'm taking that idea, and then lately, since I started reading this book as well, when I talk to my friends, we've been talking about, oh, like, I miss college, it's hard working, all that stuff, and I'm like, wait, let's think about later. Like, let's think about, like, we won't have to worry about this stuff later. So why are we worrying about it right now? Like, it's kind of like, yeah, we have loans to pay and, you know, things to do, but that's dragging us down right now when we don't even necessarily, like, it's not so urgent. Like, we have so much more ahead of us. For me, I'm always like, we haven't even finished a quarter of our lives. Like, that's insane. Like, a quarter of our predicted life. So why are we worrying so much about everything when, like, we haven't even reached half our lives? Like, yeah, I guess it's just about, like, living in the moment and not worrying about everything all at once. I guess that's what I got from it. Oh, or we want to sleep all the time. Yeah, when my grandma passed away, all I did was just sleep. And I was like, I wish I would have had this book back then. I think, yeah, it definitely, if I would have found this book then, it would have helped me, but it still helped me now. It doesn't matter. Loss unites us. Yeah, I definitely feel like every time I mention a story, someone else has a story where they're like, this is how I felt after my family member passed away. And sometimes I'm also like, I handle grief in a different way, and my friends didn't understand, but I meet people now who completely get it. So it just depends on how open-minded you are to grief and loss. And then loss is a rite of passage. Yeah, I would definitely say when both my grandmas passed away, I like matured a little bit more because I was kind of just, I don't know, I think I became more serious. Like, there's only a handful of times I've cried since then, but now my emotional tolerance became higher, I guess. And so, I don't know, I think I got a little more serious after that happened. So I think the next chapter was chapter 5. I don't know if you could hear that, but I think that was my stomach. Okay, chapter 5 was the lesson of power. So I wrote your money or your life. And that was page. Oh yeah, and then the man from the story, Jack, says, I'm thinking. when a robber asks your money or your life. And here's the other thing I noticed about myself is that I kind of like, I try to detach myself from material things, which is so hard. And like, you don't have money, like, I shouldn't be that way, but I try to make it so if, I don't know, God forbid my house or my apartment were to go on fire, like, you know, that question, what would you grab first? And I guess, of course, I would try to grab my phone or my keys or whatever to help me survive. But ultimately, if everything burned away, of course I would be sad, but more so because of the memories. But in the end, I just started thinking, like, now after reading this book, like, everything's pretty much replaceable. I don't really need anything. Like, I just try to keep in that mindset, like, I don't really need anything except like my health and my family or my friends. Like, why do I care about all this? So that's kind of where my mind's been at. And then poor is a state of mind. Oh my gosh, that has changed me a little bit in the past few weeks. Like, it's like crazy because I don't, like, I should be doing different stuff. I mean, I'm not doing bad in the sense that I have like food on the table, I have a roof over my head, all that. But I just mean, like, it's crazy to think like that if you're just like how they say confidence is something that you can wear and people will notice it. I feel like, yeah, like, if you think you're poor, that's like how you're gonna live. Obviously, like, there's more levels to it. If you actually don't have money, you can't do anything. But I never saw myself as a person who just quit and was like, and is going to be like, well, I don't have anything, so I'm just gonna stay like this. I don't see myself as that kind of person. And then our way is not always the best. Oh my gosh, yeah, I get really stubborn, and I've learned, like, that is very true. No accidents, only divine manipulations. So that's also another idea that is just very intense to think about. Yeah, it just goes back to everything happens for a reason. I just keep believing in that because there's just little things that have happened and I just know that they were for a reason, and later I either confirm that or I still have to confirm it, but you don't always know. So the next note I had was power to make yourself happy. Oh my gosh, this is very strong because I'm always using depression as an example because it's just so relevant. I think everybody goes through it at some point. Only you can get out of that. That's like crazy to think about. Like, only you can do that. Nobody else. And so you have to find your own ways to map through. And I'm always thinking about that too. I'm like, well, I don't want to get up today, but only I can get myself up today. So it's just something within. Then the next thing I wrote, we must fulfill ourselves. The same thing, it's just finding within. You have to motivate yourself. Simplicity is what matters most. A grateful person equals a powerful person. Okay, yeah, after reading this, I've started thinking about simplicity. And that's kind of how I want to live my life now. Like, I just want to chill now. My goal after reading this is to have the mentality of the people who are closer to death, as strange as that sounds, but because I want to have that fleeting, like, freeing thought for the rest of my life to enjoy it. So that's why thinking about happiness and then about simplicity. I feel like if I'm taking this now and if I'm able to keep this mindset, I will have a great life. But more importantly, I will be able to share this with other people and like help their lives, because I think ultimately that's like my goal, is just to spread this idea. I just feel like I'm supposed to like do certain things to help people find their way, like as I'm finding my way, of course. So I guess that's what you're saying, I'm looking for in a career, in the future, in the hobby. Like I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to do all that. So, and then we must remember our power comes from knowing that everything is alright and everyone is unfolding exactly as they are supposed to. So I feel like reading that is like listening to a pastor or a preacher at church. Just think about it. Like just think about the fact that everything is alright, everything is going to be alright, and then you don't have to worry about fixing everything. Because I notice if I'm so worried about making sure everything is okay, it usually does not go right, because I'm so worried about controlling it. So it's just about letting go, like, of that control. So that's where I was at with chapter 5 about power. So yeah. The next chapter is chapter 6, and that's the lesson of guilt. So this chapter definitely resonates with me, because I will spend every day doing certain things, and then when it comes to doing things for myself, I start to feel guilty. And as this chapter explains, I'm not the only one that feels that way. So it's like if my friends want to hang out with me and I don't have time to hang out with them, I feel bad. But it's like, why do I feel bad when I don't have the energy, or I simply just do not want to? It kind of doesn't make any sense. But anyways, one of the things that I wrote down in my notes: if you have been spared in order to live. So I think this is about people who feel guilt about living when someone else didn't live. So basically, if you're worrying about why you were the one chosen to live, are you living? And I didn't have an exact experience like that, but I understood where it came from, because I've thought about that too. Like, why me? Like, you know, what am I doing to deserve this? But I've also thought about, if you're here, take advantage of it. Because when I hear about my friends who were really young, were in their 20s, if I hear about any of my friends passing away, it's just so devastating. So I've always thought, like, instead of thinking like, oh, you know, I don't deserve to be here, or, you know, it should have been me, as the chapter explained, I have been thinking more of what the authors also try to express, is I should be thinking more, how can I live? And then personally, I've always thought, how can I live for those people? Like, if they were living today, what would they do with their lives? Like, obviously they wouldn't be wasting it. Like, sometimes I feel like I'm not learning anything, I'm not doing anything new, and this is taking space from someone else. That's how I always feel if you don't step outside of your comfort zone. So that's kind of where my mentality has been, like, lately. And then I also wrote down, we're taught to please others by agreeing to their requests. I am like the biggest pushover, and I'm trying to just change that because it's like draining me. We deserve forgiveness. That is like such a hard thing to do. It says forgiveness means acknowledging the past and letting it go. There are still things to this day that I haven't forgiven people for, but I know that this book and a lot of other things I have been watching and reading have just expressed to me like forgiveness is not for the other person at all, it's for you. And I get that. It's just sometimes it's so hard to let go, so I'm still dealing with some of that stuff. But yeah, that was chapter 6, the lesson of guilt.